Okay, we're going to remove the color change mechanism, and in order to do that I always recommend to do it on needle number 8. So basically we're going to the three needle icon, you press that, and then you can select whatever needle you want to move the sewing head. In this case we want to move it to needle 8. So you can see that the sewing head has been moved to needle number 8. I always recommend to do that because that's the center of the head. When we install or reinstall the color change mechanism, it's very important to align the needle with the hole of the needle plate in needle number 8. So right now our system is on needle number 8, and our potentiometer basically is detecting our needle number 8 right here. So that's very important. If you are going to remove the color change mechanism, always do it on needle number 8. So in order to expose the color change mechanism, we need to remove this cover by removing these two screws that are on top. And this is our color change mechanism. Basically we got the block knob where you can move it manually. You have the motor that moves the color change mechanism. Basically it moves this gear, and by turning this gear it will move through these pin rolls. And then we have here the potentiometer, basically what tells the machine in what needle it's the sewing head located. Let's say you're at needle number 1. This potentiometer tells the computer that the machine is on needle number 1. Now, in order to remove the color change mechanism, we need to remove this cover as well, because all the connectors are inside this cover. So we're going to remove this cover right here. There we go. As you can see, this cable, which is the motor cable, goes inside right here, and inside here we got the connector. So as you can see right here, here's the cable, and then we have here a connector. So by disconnecting this plug, basically you're disconnecting this motor. Now the other connection that involves the color change mechanism is this cable right here, which is the potentiometer. So right here, when you disconnect this cable, basically you're disconnecting this potentiometer. Make sure to turn off your machine before disconnecting any cable. It's very important to have your machine off. Gently we have to remove this cable ties. Okay, so right here is our cable, and here's our connector. Okay. Okay, now that our head, the sewing head, it's on needle number 8, we're going to disconnect the cable. Make sure your machine is off. So basically you press right here, and you can unplug the cable right there. Very easy. Okay. Now the other cable that we need to disconnect is the potentiometer. Basically it's this cable, we need to follow it, and this right here, the small plug, this is the potentiometer cable. So we need to press right here and then unplug. Okay, so now that we have the motor is disconnected and our potentiometer is disconnected, that's it. That's all the connectors involved in the color change mechanism. Okay, in order to remove the color change mechanism, basically we need to loosen these two screws right here. It's an Allen screws, and we need to use a 4mm Allen wrench in order to remove this two. So we remove the screws, and the color change mechanism can be removed. Except for the color change mechanism can be removed. The only thing that it's holding the color change mechanism is this cable. Basically this cable that goes through here. It's the thread brake sensor. So if we remove the cover, you can see that we have the thread brake sensor right here. And this is the cable that connects the thread brake sensor. So the only thing that we need to do in order to remove completely the color change mechanism is remove those ties right here, and there's a little screw right here that it can be removed with a 3mm Allen wrench right here. Okay, after carefully removing the ties that holds this cable and the screw that goes right here, you can unplug this cable right here very carefully. This is our thread brake sensor. So very carefully you can unplug this right here in order to remove this cable away. Okay, so basically we don't have anything attached to the color change mechanism, so we remove these two cables. We have unplugged our cables, and then you can remove it, the full color change mechanism. Now once again, this is our color change mechanism. The block knob to move manually the color change, the motor, our gear that with the pin rolls, when that gear turns, it will move through the pin rolls of the head. That will cause the sewing head to move through one side to another. And then we have here the potentiometer. This is the potentiometer. This is our cable for our potentiometer. So this bracket right here is what holds the potentiometer in place. Let me show you how the potentiometer looks. This is a potentiometer. Here's the dial. So the dial basically goes inside this little bracket, and when you tie that bracket, basically you're putting pressure through the dial. So when this gear or the motor turns the gear, basically our potentiometer is also turning, and that's what's sending the signal to the computer in order for the computer to know in which needle the sewing head is. If you want to verify if you have an obstruction on the sewing head, you can basically move the sewing head from one side to another. You can see we got 15 right here, and then we can go to needle number 1. Okay, so that's the best way to inspect the sewing head. To install back the color change mechanism, we want to place the sewing head on needle number 8. Okay, to install the color change mechanism into the machine, basically we need to make sure that our sewing head is placed on needle 8. Means that the needle is on top of the hole of the needle plate. So there you go. That's on needle 8. And then we're going to place the color change mechanism basically you need to make sure this pin roll of needle 8 it's inside the groove of the gear, and you have to align the holes to the holes of the arm of the embroidery machine. Now, before you place the screws right here, you need to make sure that this little tip, it's inside in our thread break sensor, which is right here. So you wanna remove a little bit the color change mechanism, and then place the thread break sensor, and then place back the color change mechanism right there. As you can see right there, the holes align it, and the pin roll inside the gear. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to put the screws for the color change mechanism. Okay, there's one. And then we're going to put the second one. There we go. Don't tighten it yet. Now the next step, we're going to plug the cables. Okay. With your embroidery machine off, we're going to plug the cables right there, and then the motor. Right there. Okay. And then what we're going to do is we're going to turn on the embroidery machine. We have to confirm if our potentiometer it's on needle 8. So we turn on the embroidery machine. And then we're going to verify here at the screen that we are in needle 8. And physically we need to check our sewing head if it's at needle 8. So you can see that right here we are needle 8, and the computer also it's at needle 8. Okay, so that means that everything is synchronized. I mean, the potentiometer is synchronized physically with the sewing head and the computer. Okay, so before you tighten the screws, what we need to do is we need to align the needle to the center of the hole of the needle plate. Now you have to be very careful with the cables, not leaving those in between the pin rolls, like right here. So basically I need to remove the color change mechanism back again, remove the cable, and then place back the color change mechanism. Okay, once you verify that the color change mechanism is properly in place, the tip inside the thread break sensor, the screws, don't tighten those screws yet because we have to align the needle with the hole, with the center of the hole of the needle plate. Okay, so now that everything looks okay, no cables in between the pin rolls and everything, let's align the needle with the hole of the needle plate. Okay, basically we need to confirm that we are on needle 8. Okay, so we're going to load the needle manually right here in the block knob. Move the main shaft and load the needle so where you can see the tip of the needle. So basically you're going to load the needle to 120 degree, which is going to be the way it is, as you can see in the video. So you can see the tip of the needle, it's not in the center of the hole of the needle plate. So you're going to move the head to center right there. It's very important to center needle 8 with the center of the hole of the needle. Okay, right there. That's the needle at the center. And then we tied the color change mechanism. Once you have centered the needle with the hole of the needle plate, needle number 8, you tied gently these screws. There we go. Now another thing that you want to check before you move the sewing head, you need to verify the space between the pin rolls and the motor. You can see that the pin rolls are not touching the motor right there, so that's basically perfect. If those pin rolls are touching the motor, you have to unscrew the whole color change mechanism and separate the color change mechanism from the pin rolls and tie it again. But you have to probably need to redo the center of the needle with the hole of the needle plate. Okay, so once it's tight, my needle right there, and it's confirmed that it's needle 8 on the screen and needle 8 physically on the sewing head. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do a 100-degree cycle. So the needle will go up and the machine will stop at 100 degree. So it means that the color change mechanism has been installed, and then it's the time to test. Have to be very careful with this cover since it's loose right there, has been installed. So I'm going to press the 3 needle and I'm going to move the sewing head from needle 1 to 8. There's needle number 1. And then we're going to move to to needle number 15. There we go. I'm going to place back to needle 8, which is the center of the sewing head. And then I'm going to finish with my installation. I'm going to connect the thread break sensor. I'm going to place the cable properly through the color change mechanism. And then I'm going to put the cover to the tension box. And then finally I'm going to place the covers for the color change mechanism and the arm of the embroidery machine. Okay, so first, to connect the cable to the thread break sensor, we need to turn off our embroidery machine. Okay, so here is our cable for our thread break sensor, and I'm going to connect the cable to the thread break sensor right here, and then I'm going to place the cable right here through the screw. Okay, so it was this screw right here, and I'm going to use the 3mm Allen wrench. So using the 3mm Allen wrench, we're going to place right here this cable in place. Right there. And then if you want to put with a tie to hold this cable right here. Okay, we will place a tie. Don't tie it too much. There we go. And then we place back the cover for the tension box. There we go. We place those cables right here. Make sure, because all the, and then we place back the cover. There we go. Place back the cover. Put the screws for the cover. And then we place back the color change mechanism cover right here. And that's how you install the color change mechanism.